honorable members, a very good morning to all of you. I welcome you all to the National Youth Parliament session, and I hope this session will be fruitful. We begin today's session with oath or affirmation of our newly elected members. Secretary General, please.
Mr. Idukki, who stands elected from Nagaur constituency of Rajasthan, will now take an oath or an affirmation. Mr. Idukki, please. Mr. Idukki, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation?
An oath, please.
Which language would you like to take the oath?
In Hindi.
मैं यलमन जो युवा संसद के निचले सदन का सदस्य निर्वाचित हुआ हूँ, ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूँ कि मैं विधि द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगा, देश की एकता एवं प्रभुत्व को बनाए रखूंगा तथा जिस पद को मैं ग्रहण करने वाला हूँ उसके कर्तव्यों को श्रद्धापूर्वक निर्वहन करूंगा।
Ms. Idukki, who stands elected from Shimla constituency of Himachal Pradesh, will now take an oath or an affirmation. Ms. Idukki, please. Ms. Idukki, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation?
An oath, please.
Which language would you like to take the oath?
In Sanskrit. अहम अदुल्या यः युवसंसदस्य निम्नसदनया सदस्य निर्वचितः निश्चयेन परमेश्वरस्य ज्ञाम्ना कृते यदि विधीनां स्थापितं भारतस्य संविधानं प्रति सत्य श्रद्धा निष्ठा च करिष्ये अहं भारतस्य सम्पूर्णप्रभुत्वा अखण्डता च रक्षिष्यामि तदा इति पदं गृहीत्वा अहं तस्य कर्तव्यानि श्रद्धापूर्वकः निर्वह्यामि।
Ms. Anamika, who stands elected from Panaji constituency of Goa, will now take an oath or an affirmation. Ms. Anamika, please. Ms. Anamika, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation?
An oath, please.
Which language would you like to take the oath?
English. I, Anamika Bhaskar, having been elected as a member of Youth Parliament, do swear in the name of God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established, that I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India, and that I will faithfully discharge the duty upon which I am about to enter.
Ms. Sita, who stands elected from Idukki constituency of Kerala, will now take an oath or an affirmation. Ms. Sita, please. Ms. Sita, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation?
An oath, please.
Which language would you like to take the oath?
In Malayalam. തീർത്ഥകമായ ഞാൻ നിയമം വഴി സ്ഥാപിതമായ ഭാരതത്തിന്റെ ഭരണഘടനയോട് നിർവ്യാജമായ വിശ്വാസത്തെയും കൂറും പുലർത്തുമെന്ന് അഖണ്ഡതയിൽ നിലനിർത്തുമെന്നും ഞാൻ കേരള സംസ്ഥാനത്തിന്റെ ഒരു മന്ത്രി എന്ന നിലയിൽ എന്റെ കർത്തവ്യങ്ങൾ വിശ്വസ്തയോടെ മനസാക്ഷി മുൻനിർത്തി നിർവഹിക്കുമെന്നും ഭരണഘടനയുടെ നിയമങ്ങൾ അനുസരിച്ച് ഭീതിയോ പക്ഷപാതമോ പ്രീതിയോ
Mr. Shabas, who stands elected from Chennai constituency of Tamil Nadu, will now take an oath or an affirmation. Mr. Shabas, please. Mr. Shabas, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation? Which language would you like to take the oath?
மக்கள் சபை உறுப்பினராக தேர்ந்தெடுக்கப்பட்ட ஷஹபாஸ் ஷாஜஹான் என்கிறார் சட்டப்பூர்வமாக நிறுவப்பட்டுள்ள இந்திய அரசு மீது உண்மையான நம்பிக்கையும் பற்றுதலும் கொண்டிருப்பேன் என்றும் இந்திய நாட்டின் இறையாண்மையை ஒருமைப்பாட்டை நிலைநிறுத்துவேன் என்றும் நான் மேற்கொள்ள இருக்கும் கடமையை நேர்மையுடன் நிறைவேற்றும் என்றும் கடவுள் மீது உறுதி கூறுகிறேன். வாழ்க தமிழ், வாழ்க பாரத்.
Those who are taking oath, please hold the mic bit close to your mouth.
Ms. Jyoti, who stands elected from Nellore constituency of Andhra Pradesh, will now take an oath or an affirmation. Ms. Jyoti, please. Ms. Jyoti, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation?
An oath, please.
Which language would you like to take the oath?
In Telugu. జ్యోతి అను నేను లోక్సభ సంయోరాధిగా ఎన్నుకోబడినందున చతురెత్గా నిలబల్పడిన భారత సంవిధానం పట్ల యథార్థమైన భక్తి కలిగి యుందుననియు భారత సర్వసద అధికారులను అకంతడను సమర్థించిననియు శ్రద్ధ శక్తులతో నిర్వహించినని దైవ సాక్షిగా ప్రమాణ స్వీకారం చేసినాను.
Mr. Vivek, who stands elected from Hubli constituency of Karnataka, will now take an oath or an affirmation. Mr. Vivek, please. Mr. Vivek, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation?
An oath, please.
Which language would you like to take the oath?
In Kannada. ನಾನು ವಿವೇಕ್ ಸ್ಟಾಲಿನ್ ಅವರು ಯುವ ಸಂಸತ್ತಿನ ಕೆಳವನೆಯ ಸದಸ್ಯರಾಗಿ ಚುನಾಯಿತರಾದ ನಂತರ ನಾನು ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಮೂಲಕ ಭಾರತದ ಸಂವಿಧಾನಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಜವಾದ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಿಷ್ಠೆಯನ್ನು ಹೊಂದುತ್ತೇನೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಾನು ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತ್ವವನ್ನು ಎತ್ತಿ ಹಿಡಿಯುತ್ತೇನೆ ಎಂದೋ ದೇವರ ಹೆಸರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಮಾಣ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೇನೆ ಮತ್ತು ನನ್ನ ದೇಶದ ಸಮಗ್ರದ ಮತ್ತು ಅದು ನಾನು ಪ್ರವೇಶಿಸಲಿರುವ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ನಿಷ್ಠೆಯಿಂದ ನಿರ್ವಹಿಸುತ್ತೇನೆ.
Mr. Adil, who stands elected from Ludhiana constituency of Punjab, will now take an oath or an affirmation. Mr. Adil, please. Mr. Adil, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation?
Oath, please.
Which language would you like to take the oath?
In Punjabi.
मैं अतुल नौजवान संसद के हकले सदन का सदस्य चुने जाते परमात्मादी सोन लेना हांके में स्थापित किए गए कानून अनुसार भारतीय संविधान के प्रति सच्चा विश्वास आते वफादारी निभाऊंगा। मैं भारतीय प्रभुसत्ता आते अखंडता का पालन करूंगा। आते में वफादारी नाड़फर्ज निभाऊंगा जिस विष में दाखिल होंजा रिहा हूं।
Prime Minister, may please introduce new ministers to the House.
Honorable Speaker Ma'am, I have pleasure in introducing to you and through you to the House, my colleagues, the new ministers. Ms. Sona Sumesh, Minister of HRD, and Mr. Nalisa, Minister of Renewable Energy.
Now, we begin with the question hour. Question number 101, Mr. Stephen L. Justin.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, will the Honorable Minister of IT be pleased to state whether the government is aware of the suicide of children due to addiction of video games during the last 5 years in the country? If so, the details thereof, state-wise, along with the steps taken by the government in this regard. Whether gambling due to addiction of video games is causing financial loss to the youth and their parents. If so, the details thereof, along with the reaction of the government thereto. Whether the government has received any complaints in this regard. If so, the details of such complaints, including the complaints from the states.
Honorable Minister of IT, please.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, the government is committed to open, safe and trusted and accountable internet. With increasing proliferation of internet coupled with global pandemic scenario, the average time being spent on the internet by Indian users has increased. As per some media reports, the time spent on the online games has also increased. Government is aware of the possible risks and challenges, including that of the user harms associated with the online games. This ministry does not maintain data for the number of children who committed suicide due to the addiction of internet games. As per the information provided by the National Crime Record Bureau (NCRB), which maintains all the crime statistics, the state-wise details during the year 2017 to 2020 are annexed, and the latest data pertains to 2020. Betting and gambling are listed as a state subject under entries 34 of list 2nd in the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution, thereby giving the states power to legislate in this domain. Accordingly, the state or the union territories have enacted their laws to deal with gambling, including online gambling, within their jurisdiction. This ministry blocks apps or URLs, including online games based on the specific request received from the designated nodal officers of the ministries or the state on the ground of integrity and sovereignty of India, defense of India, security of the state, friendly relationship with foreign state, public order, and to prevent incitement to the commission of any cognizable offence related to the above circumstances, following due process specified in the information technology, procedure, and safeguard for blocking for access of the information by public. Rules 2009 notified under Section 69A of the Information Technology Act 2000. The answer for the last question. This ministry received complaints on the same lines as above in the form of grievances from Honorable Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Honorable Chief Minister of Puducherry, and from some honorable members of the Parliament. Thank you.
Question number 102, Ms. Abhinanda.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, will the Honorable Minister of External Affairs be pleased to state the construction of progress of construction along with the salient features of Kala and multimodal transit project, the details of funds allocated and utilized under the state project, and the status of work done and expected date for the completion of the project.
Honorable Minister of External Affairs, please.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, the Kaladan Multimodal Transport Project includes a waterways component of 158 km on the Kaladan River from Siddhaway Port to Palatwa in Myanmar, and a road component of 109 km from Palatwa to Zorinpur on the India-Myanmar border in Mizoram State. The revised project scopes approved by the Union Cabinet in October 2015 is 2,904.04 crore. As on date, an amount of rupees 629 crore has been utilized. The waterways component comprises of the port and inland water transport, IWT terminal at Siddhaway, IWT terminal and related facilities at Palatwa, a navigational channel along the Kaladan River from Siddhaway to Palatwa, and 6 self-propelled IWT vessels have been completed. A port operator jointly appointed by the governments of India and Myanmar has started the maintenance of the port since February 2020. Progress on the construction work of the road component has been slow, mainly due to the security situation on the Myanmar side and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Efforts for an expeditious completion of the project are underway.
Question number 103, Ms. Arundhati.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, with the Honorable Minister of Transport, we pleased to state that whether a target of construction upgradation of 35,000 km of national opened in October 2017 with an aggregate length about 34,800 kilometers, including 10,000 kilometers regional national highways development program stretches, at an estimated outlay of rupees 5,35,000 crores for development of about 9,000 kilometer length of economic corridors, about 6,000 kilometer length of inter-corridors and feeder roads, about 5,000 kilometer length of national corridors, efficiency improvements, about 2,000 kilometer length of border and international connectivity roads, about 2,000 kilometer length of coastal and port connectivity roads, about 800 kilometer length of expressways. Out of this, projects with a length of 17,569 kilometers with total cost of rupees 4,74,400 crores have been awarded. Award of work in entire Bharatmala Pariyojana Phase 1 is targeted by year 2023 and completion by year 2027. Till now, the length of 75,984 kilometers have been constructed. Answer for the last question. Bharatmala Pariyojana has been envisaged based on origin destination OD studies of rigid traffic movement, and it has been envisaged to provide connectivity to 550 districts in the country.
Question number 104, Mr. Aditya.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, will the Minister of Civil Aviation please to state that whether the number of airports including Delhi and Mumbai have been given to the operating companies of the private sector in this country? If so, the details thereof. The terms and criteria adopted by the government and the operating companies of the private sector in this regard. Whether the role of airport authority with the operating sectors is ensured. If so, the details thereof and the names of the companies which have shown interest in operating and reconstructing the airports, and along with the names of companies which the government has selected.
Honorable Minister of Civil Aviation, please.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, Airports Authority of India had recently awarded 6 airports, namely Ahmedabad in Gujarat, Jaipur in Rajasthan, Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh, Guwahati in Assam, Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala, and Mangaluru in Karnataka, for operations, management and development under public-private partnership for a period of 50 years. Besides, Airports Authority of India had leased out Delhi and Mumbai airports in 2006 to Delhi International Airport Limited and Mumbai International Airport Limited, respectively, for operations, management and development under public-private partnership for a period of 30 years. The criteria for the selection of airports for public-private partnership mode include quantitative criteria such as revenue aspects, that is total terminal area, growth rate in revenue, occupancy rate retail area. Profitability aspects, that is total revenue, total operating costs or PAX, total operating costs or terminal area. Commercial aspects, that is total PAX, total air traffic movement, volume of cargo, projected 15-year compounded annual growth rate PAX, projected 15-year compounded annual growth rate cargo, city-side land availability for real estate development. Qualitative criteria such as growth potential, that is capacity utilization, expansion possibility and future development plan. Location and economic attractiveness, that is net state domestic product, urban population in the influence area, annual exponential growth rate. Airports Authority of India has signed concession agreements with the concerned public-private partnership partners for the above airports, whereas the exclusive right and authority has been granted to the public-private partnership during the concession period to undertake some of the functions of the Airports Authority of India, that is maintenance, operation, development, modernization, upgradation, design, construction and management of the airport. The roles and responsibilities of the authority and the public-private partnership partner are mainly governed by the provisions of concession agreements signed for the airports. A total of 32 bids were recently awarded for 6 airports from GMA Airports Limited Adani Enterprises Limited, Auto Trade Infrastructure Development Private Limited, PNC Infratech Limited, NIAF and Zurich Airport International, Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation, Cochin International Airport, and Sana Enterprises. All the 6 airports were awarded to the highest bidder, Adani Enterprises. Thank you.
Question number 105, Ms. Anyalani.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, will the Minister of Defence be pleased to state the steps taken or proposed to be taken by the government to set up a science school in the memory of Paramveer Chakra Award winner Naik Jagannath Singh, born at village Khajuri, Tehsil Kalan of Shahjahanpur district in UP? If so, the details thereof, and whether the government has decided to set up a science school in various other districts of the country. If so, the details thereof in state or union territory wise and district wise.
Honorable Minister of Defence, please.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, science schools under existing pattern are established on a receipt of request from the state government, who also need to agree to provide land along with funds for the creation and maintenance of basic infrastructure, purchase of equipment and other facilities. Besides providing scholarship for the cadets belonging to the state government, once land is found suitable and other requirements are agreed to, an in-principle approval is accorded, followed by signing of a memorandum of agreement (MOA). The government has announced in Budget 2021-22 a scheme for setting up 100 new science schools in the country in partnership with NGOs, states, private schools, etc. Once the scheme is approved, new schools will be setting up accordingly.
Question number 106, Mr. Anand.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, will the Minister of Railway be pleased to state whether the government has started the project of first bullet train in the country? If so, the present status thereof. The details of relocation and compensation package that are being offered to agricultural landowners in Maharashtra and Gujarat. Those land and the government intend to acquire for the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail corridor. Whether the government is anticipating an increase in the project cost due to the continued delay of the project. If so, the reason thereof. And whether the latest deferment of the project deadline is 2026, and if so, the manner in which is likely to impact the MOU with Japanese government and Japan International Cooperation Agency along with the total expenditure thereof.
Honorable Minister of Railway, please.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, a statement is laid on the table of the House. Yes, sir, the government has sanctioned the first high-speed rail corridor between Mumbai and Ahmedabad in December 2015 with technical and financial assistance from the government of Japan, and the same is presently under execution. The current status of Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail MHC project is as under. All statutory clearance relating to wildlife coastal regulations on ZRZ and forest clearance have been obtained. Out of the total land requirement of approximately 1,396 hectare, about 1,248 hectare land has been acquired so far. The entire project has been divided into 27 contract packages, including Training Institute at Vadodara. At present, 13 packages have been awarded, 3 are under evaluation, and notice inviting tender NIT has been invited for 2 packages. The land out of total 352 km length of project located in Gujarat and Dadra and Nagar Haveli, civil works in 352 km length have started in different phases from December 2020 onwards. The land acquisition and rehabilitation activities for MHSR project is being done in accordance with the right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation and resettlement RFC TLA RR Act 2013 and relevant amendment and government resolution GR of the respective state governments. The cost of MHSR project is 1,08,000 crore as in 2013, delay in land acquisition, especially in the state of Maharashtra, and consequent delays in the finalization of contracts, as well as adverse impact of COVID-19 have delayed the execution of MHSR project. The anticipated increase in the cost and TAC can fully be as certain only after completion of land acquisition and finalization of all contracts and associated timelines. As per the Memorandum of Understanding MOU, Government of Japan will provide a loan of at 81% at the maximum of the project cost. Finalization of actual cost and quantum of the loan shall be amended accordingly if required. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, may I?
Yes, Mr. Rabin.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, there has been a serious breach of privileges by the members of the ruling party. Day before, a serious and confidential issue related to the foreign policies of India towards its neighboring countries was discussed, which was later leaked into media and now has been a chaotic debate. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, before the side put forth any of their development projects or increment in GDP, let them get to know about the rules, regulations, norms and disciplines of the parliament, and let them not make the people ashamed of who they choose to be their representatives.
Mr. Rabin, have you given notice of it earlier?
Yes, ma'am. I have given already notice of it 10 a.m. this morning.
It will be examined and you will come to know about it. Now, papers to be laid. Honorable Minister of Renewable Energy, Ms. Sana Elsa, please.
Ma'am, I beg to lay on the table copy of the papers related to reports by following. Identification of industrial sector promising for commercialization for solar energy, market assessment for solar water heating in Himalayan regions, Delhi International Renewable Energy Conference.
Honorable Minister of Human Resource Development, Ms. Sona Sumesh, please.
Ma'am, with your permission, I would like to lay down following. Report of Working Group of Subcommittees of National Development Council, Report on Technology Mission on Oil, Seeds and Pulses, Report on Integrated Nutrients.
Honorable members, I have to make an important announcement. On my behalf and behalf of the honorable members of the House, I have great pleasure in extending a warm and hearty welcome to the honorable members of the British Parliamentary Delegation who are on a visit to India as our honoured guest. It is a very high-powered delegation and the delegation arrived on Sunday, 14th August 2022. They are now seated in the special box. We wish them a happy and comfortable stay in our country. Now, let us take a calling attention motion. Shri Ellen K. James, please.
आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय जी, क्या कृषि मंत्री मेरे प्रश्न का उत्तर देंगे? आखिर क्यों इनकी पार्टी के द्वारा पारित किए हुए सभी अधिकारियों बिल में रूरल डेवलपमेंट के लिए कंसर्न कोच को अनिवार्य नहीं किया गया है, जिसका नतीजा यही निकल रहा है कि इनका लापरवाहियों का खामियाजा गरीब किसान अपनी जान देकर भुगत रहे हैं। और क्यों ये सूट-बूट की सरकार उद्योगपतियों के हितों को राष्ट्र हित से ज्यादा महत्व दे रहे हैं?
Honorable Minister of Agriculture, please.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, I stand here in absolute sorrow over the recent incident of the instigated suicide by the farmer brother of our nation. And I would like to reiterate my stand here that the opposition that is responsible for this amendment of the suicide owing to the malice slander propaganda, it is promoting against a very general bill. They are among with the CD agitators, they goons and the footage-hungry toothless, the opposition leaders are trying to spread incorrect information about a law-printing reform that aims to catapult the nation in the direction of progress. I would like to ask my opposition why they never opposed the draconian eminent domain voting that existed throughout the 16 years of rule. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, this is nothing more than a cheap gimmick on the part of the opposition that has hardly resulted in a loss of life. Sadly, this opposition trying to make a statement term as a suit booth ki sarkar. I say I welcome that label because for us, we wish to see every farmer so developed as they would as well. For us, overall development is paramount. The opposition has issued with the concerned class. Do they not realize this provision is only in the class of national security, affordable housing for the poor, industrial corridors and social infra and PPP project where the government holds the land? Honorable Speaker, is the opposition trying to say that the national security isn't a paramount importance? Are they saying that the votes they gather from the farmers for the Bijli Pani and Sadaka just oath, and when it is came to doing something about it, they oppose it tooth and nails and influence the poor farmers by misleading him? Don't our farmers deserve a better life? They spoke about the compensation once the project has been delivered. Don't they see how the industrial corridors are contributing in the terms of employment generation beside the general compensation that we provided at a specified rate, not just to the landowner but also who are dependent on the land?
Honorable Speaker, the opposition is ignoring the fact that relief and rehabilitation has made the most important asset of this act, something that like long dark period never considered, not even then supposedly wake up in 2030. The number of provisions that our government has made in this act in the interest of the farmers, besides considering national interest and development, are amazing. Right from all the interests of the nation overall. This rafta opposition and its agitators are creating confusion of political aims. This law is going to change the outlook of India in a positive way. History shall stand witness to the progress this art shall bring to our nation in the era of federalism. I wish the opposition rise above its pretty political grimace that risks the lives of our poor farmers and try and understand the importance of this reform in letter, in spirit, instead of opposing it for the sake of opposing it.
आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, ये सरकार ने आज तक भी कोई काम ढंग से नहीं किया। ये महज कुर्सियों पे आराम और तकरीरों में बड़े-बड़े वादे करती है। यह सरकार लोगों को धोखा और उनके भावनाओं के साथ खिलवाड़ करती है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, इस सरकार ने ना एजुकेशन पे, ना हेल्थ सेक्टर पे, ना डिफेंस पे और ना एग्रीकल्चर पे कोई काम किया। Ma'am, we demand a motion of no confidence be granted.
Motion moved. Those who are in favor of government may please say aye.
Aye.
Those against the government may please say no. We have a 51:49 ratio, and I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Motion moved.
आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं शुक्रगुजार हूँ अपनी पार्टी मेंबर्स का और उन लोगों का जिन्होंने मुझ में विश्वास दिखाया। मैं उनकी विश्वास का पूरी कदर करते हुए उनको यकीन दिलाता हूँ कि उनका दिखाया विश्वास जाया नहीं होगा। और मैं अपने अपोजिशन मेंबर्स से गुजारिश करता हूँ कि वो हर एक मुद्दे को राजनीतिक रंग न दें। Let's not paint every issue with the brush of politics. Me being the Prime Minister, I do acknowledge the fact that there have been some loopholes in our governments, but still we reassure the nation that we have been and will be working for the development of our nation, so that we all will be the witness of a beautiful, peaceful, and above all, a progress nation. Thank you.
Honorable Minister of Law to introduce the bill.
Ma'am, I beg to move for leave to introduce a bill further to amend the Motor Vehicles Act.
The question is that the leave be granted to introduce a bill further to amend the Motor Vehicles Act. Those who are in favor will please say aye.
Aye.
Those against the government may please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Leave is granted.
Ma'am, I introduce the bill.
Now, the House will take up consideration of the Police Force Bill 2015. Honorable Law Minister, please.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the Police Force Bill 2015 and act to consolidate and amend the law relating to the establishment, regulation, powers and duties of the police service and for the matters connected therewith and incidental thereto. Ma'am, the very foundation of our nation is based on the rule of law of all the three organs of the government. The law is held to be the most supreme and powerful. Be it the executive, the legislature or the judiciary, no one is held above the law laid down in the constitution of our country. By judiciary act as the watchdog of rule of law, it is the police force who acts as the guardian and brings order in the society. The police force is the protector of law in the field. The legislature may pass the bill into laws, the court may issue orders, and the executive head may come up with policy documents, but it is the men in uniform who brings the spirit in these letters. Without the police, nothing can withstand the chaos of the diversified nation, which has a unique blend of culture, tradition, language, and religion like ours. It is the constitutional obligation of the state that to provide an impartial and efficient police service and empower it in such a manner so that it functions as an efficient, effective, people-friendly and responsive agency. Since the independence, our police force has largely remained on the traditional methods of crime prevention and detention. While as our country entered an era of digital age, cyber policing still remains a distant dream in India. With changing times, new challenges has emerged on the forefront. India is now no longer a legacy of British colonial rule, but an emerging superpower which wishes to enlist itself in the UNSC by the year 2023. As companies, individuals and researchers flow into the subcontinent, our police force need to itself, we do a role of providing due consideration to basic human rights to the foreign entities and also pay the policy and methods which prioritize the security of the nation as well. Terrorism, illegal drug and human trafficking, money laundering and covert upstreams. Human rights violations are such crimes with authority of national and international boundaries. There are challenges which require a more holistic approach for the police force as the first responders by such eventuality. Ma'am, in order to cope up with the challenges the 21st century present to our nation, there is an added, emergent and unprecedented need to reorganize the police force of our nation and make it more professional, service-oriented, independent of extraneous influences and accountable to law. The government has brought forward this bill before this August House because we believe it is the most appropriate time that the police force is vested with specialized powers and finances so that these challenges can be dealt with at hand. Some of the most features of this bill which are present for the full consideration of the respected House include the following. Ma'am, the main objective of this bill is to codify and amend the law relating to the establishment, regulation, powers and duties of the police service in our country. In addition to the existing duties and functions, the bill mandates social responsibility, that is providing all requisite assistance to a victim of crime or to persons found in helpless condition is no mandatory provision and duty upon a police officer, and he or she will, irrespective of medical legal formalities, have to necessarily provide it. The police officer is also required to inform and make arrangements for providing free legal aid to the deserving persons. The chapter also prohibits the use of indecent language or any misbehavior by the police personnel during the discharge of the duty. The police officers are also required to maintain a proper standard of their health and robust physique. A periodical determination of the standard will be conducted and any personnel failing to satisfy such standard shall be terminated from services. Ma'am, the Act also provides the police officers should keep audio or video or any electronic records of the activity performed by them during the discharge of their duties. A revolutionary step, as I believe it is for the first time that the government machinery is being put under camera surveillance for 24 hours and 7 days all along the year. And the provision of this bill for the community policing in which a civil society committee will be constituted in each police station which will comprise of local residents assisting the police in discharge of their duty. We believe this step will foster an era of police-public partnership which is still a distant dream in our country. Ma'am, as I mentioned earlier, there is an immediate need to modernize the police force and our government initiated by modernizing the police stations itself. The first refuge that the victim has is that of a police station, and therefore this bill mandates that every police station in our country be equipped with adequate manpower and infrastructure facilities which include medical care, food, shelter and observatory. Also proper arrangements for detainees shall be made and the lockup shall be upgraded to minimum human conditions. In addition to the above mentioned provisions, each police station shall accommodate a separate set for legal aid, movement cell and safe custody of juveniles, including separate cyber crimes. All these facilities shall be verified by the chairperson and member of the State Human Rights Commission on a periodical basis. The bill also mandates that during the training and capacity building for personnel for the police or force subjects such as human rights and cyber forensics will be made compulsory, and a failure to pass such courses shall lead to disciplinary actions which include stoppage or promotion, demotion, or in extreme cases termination from services. The most striking feature of this bill is the constitution of all Indian Police Complaint Authority which shall examine and inquire and adjudicate into complaints of misconduct and malpractice against the police officers. As citizens, we are well aware of the ground realities as such are prevailing in our country. A long list and records of pending cases in the court of our country discourage a common man from bringing any action against a court. Then there is a fear of harassment, as the famous saying goes by, "Pani mein rehkar magar mujhse bear nahi." But when the protector becomes the invader itself, there remains no option but to create a supra-authority for disposal of such complaints at an earlier stage. The All-Indian Police Authority, as mandated by this bill, is an encouragement to such supra-authority in the letter and spirit. Now the common man can have fast disposal to his complaints against the Kaki as once a complaint is lodged against a cop in question. He or she shall be stripped from all his powers in the same instance and required to report with a show cause of notice. For the effective application of these provisions, the Police Complaint Authority shall be constituted on state and district level as well. Ma'am, it has never been the good laws or lawmakers which have protected the sanctity of the governmental institution, but effective and honest enforcement of laws has always made the difference. It is not the judge sitting in the courtroom, nor the bureaucrat or the legislature who rises to the spot, coordinates the public law and order in the field, It is an ordinary constable wearing a khaki cloth, swinging a bamboo stick, who represent all these organs as one-man army, and I hope this bill will help in initiating the much-awaited change needed in the 3-in-1 representation of ours. That would be all. Thank you, ma'am, and respected members.
I am confident that all the honorable members of this House, irrespective of any party affiliation, believe in the fact that the police force of our country is in dire need to be reformed, and therefore will welcome the bill wholeheartedly, and through it will help to raise the standard of our police force akin to that of developed nations. With these words, I now move that the Police Force Bill 2015 be taken into consideration. Motion move that the bill relating to the establishment, regulation, powers and duties of the police service and for matters connected therewith and incidental thereto be taken into consideration. Honorable Home Minister, what are your remarks on this bill?
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, I raise to support this bill as I believe it is a revolution in making, and thus I feel proud to associate myself with the passing of such a reformative act. It has been a long pending issue of our nation since we achieved independence that the police force should be patronized on modern trends and be made more people friendly. While going through this bill, I personally feel that the government has attained a very basic objective of reformation on modern lines. The provision dealing with the police public cooperation are indeed a welcome step, as civil society has been yearning for it since decades. The sections pertaining to social responsibility of police and community policing are very much similar to that of developed nation, where the police itself discharges the functions of a social welfare department. The Honorable Law Minister has elaborated all the main provisions of this bill. But some of the provisions which I believe are detrimental to passing of the bill are the provisions laid down in section 136, which for the first time impose severe penalty on a police officer who commits unreasonable arrest, seizure, violence and search. It is more akin to that of providing a tool in the hands of a common man to protect himself from the high-handedness of police. Similarly, the bill also laid down certain guidelines for the protection of public property and moral order while discharging the function of police, which is a much needed reformation in modern times. Another important provision is that of separating the investigative function and maintenance of public order function with the department. Having a separate wing to investigate crime and a separate wing to maintain the decorum during a public function will help the police force to provide their service in a much quick and efficient manner. The historical provisions of this bill are indeed a great step to foster and to have an enlightened society for our nation. I believe the other members of this House will also support the passing of this bill, which will help the police force to regain its lost glory.
Ms. Mary Johnson, please enlighten the House with your views.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, police is one of the vital organs of the executive, which holds a pivotal role in maintaining law and order in the society. And for that matter, there should be partiality in the functioning of the police department. The legislature that this government has come up in connection with police reforms is monstrous, inadequate, toothless, and has a larger scope of mismanagement. Some of the provisions are in fact contrary to the Constitution of India. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, it seems that this bill has more in it for the government than for common people. It gives government power to interfere in police proceedings in an unconstitutional way. It's a mockery of democracy that the government has no knowledge of our constitution. Coming up with such a bad legislation is just unacceptable. This legislation is a fraud on the constitution itself. This bill hides more than it reveals. Opposition vehemently opposes this bill and demands amendment to certain provisions so as to synchronize this bill with the Constitution of India and public interest. Until our demands for amendments are not met, we won't let this bill to be passed. Government by controlling police wants to form an autocratic setup which will serve their own personal benefits. Section 10, which says police officers to keep the information confidential, is against the ideology of democracy. Police being a part of government cannot be allowed to work in secrecy. All materials, statements, evidences and information collected in course of official duty by any PO immediately becomes a public document and is to be placed in the public domain. It will be prejudice to the interest of general public. Section 22 glorifies police brutality. The section 12 describing the procedure to handle the injured person in custody clearly mentions the word physically injured due to the force used by police officer. Are we supposed to understand that government has given free hand to police to use force, we ask government to explain this phrase. Have they given free hand to police against the accused in the police lockups? The most dangerous proposed section of this bill is section 62, which lays down the procedure to form village defense committees for the protection of inhabitants of that particular village. It's a shame that police itself can protect the interest of masses. If people themselves have to protect their interests, then what's the need of police? Then we don't need the government as well. People will govern themselves. Under the social contract of democracy, people surrender some rights to government, and it is the duty of government to protect those rights like social security and protection. If you are to protect ourselves on our own, then what's the point of elected government? And moreover, the procedure to elect the members of BDC is not laid in the bill, which gives room for discretion. Section 53 to 56 again gives the wide powers to high-ranking officials in case of postings and promotions. With this internally system of working gives rise to the rampant corruption in the system, and with no proper procedure is laid, which makes it all way vaguer and more controversial in nature. Section 120, which bars the complaint after 6 months, is again controversial. It is against the fundamental rights, and there is no scope for reasonable delay in filing complaint. Section 101, which lays down the member of the SPCA, is again a fraud on the police or fraud on the people of the state. Only one person, the chairman, is from the judiciary. Rest all members are appointed by the government, which gives complete control to the government. It gives government power to influence the proceedings of the committee. This gives the neutrality of the committee. This gives government powers to save any officer they order. The main features in this part of the bill are sections 102 and 105. Section 102 says the chairperson is to be appointed by the government with consultation of CJ. But section 105 gives government to remove chairperson unilaterally. This again gives government the power to control committee. Section 107 lays the provision says on whose complaint action may be taken against the officer, a victim, NHRC and DG police. It's strange to see that no mention of judiciary in this section. To avoid any confusion, the judges should also be included to maintain their effectiveness. Chapter 10 deals with the complaint against the PO. The part is authoritative in nature. Government has kept all the powers to itself and thus deterred the neutrality and partiality of the SPCA. Section 107 maintains the procedure of interdepartmental inquiry, which prevents the system of check and balance. The absence of any independent authority to check the neutrality and partiality makes this whole chapter ineffective. Opposition demands the inclusion of judiciary in this section. We propose the idea of a panel of 2 sitting High Court judges to look into the functioning of the SPCA and DPCA. Opposition rejects any step or idea to make the police puppets in the hands of government. Honorable Speaker Ma'am, this bill will affect the image of police in the minds of masses and will create distrust among the general public. Until these amendments are not made, there is no question of allowing this bill to pass. Let me be clear. Police is there for the help of public and not for the government's personal use. This bill is prepared in such a manner as to keep police under the clutches of government. We won't let that happen. We will fight against any attempt by this government to dilute the structure of police.
श्रीमान क्रिस्टो सजू, आपके विचार क्या है इस बिल के प्रति?
आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, प्रणाम। आज हम आपके समक्ष खड़े होकर स्वयं को बड़ी दुविधाजनक स्थिति में महसूस कर रहा हूँ, परंतु इसका कारण सामान्य रूप से यह बिल नहीं है, किंतु हमें ऐसा लगता है कि हम आज अपने देश की सुरक्षा कर्मियों को लेकर संसद में टिप्पणी पे टिप्पणी किए जा रहे हैं, वो भी निंदाजनक, जिसका पूरा श्रेय इस आरामदायक कुर्सी में बैठी विकलांग सरकार को जाता है। इन्हें कहा मालूम अध्यक्ष महोदय कि हमारे सुरक्षा कर्मी 45 डिग्री की झुलसा देने वाली गर्मी और -19 डिग्री की कड़कती ठंड में खड़े रहकर अपना कर्तव्य पूरा कर रहे हैं, और हमारे प्रधानमंत्री रक्षा मंत्री दिल्ली की एसी कोठरियों में विराजमान है। अध्यक्ष महोदय, हमारे सुरक्षा कर्मियों का वेतन एक मजदूर की दिहाड़ी से भी कम है। इनका वेतन का बिल पिछले 15 सालों से संसद में पड़ा है और पारित किए जाने के लिए तरस रखा है। उस बिल को लेकर सरकार तस्मस नहीं हो रही है और लेकर आई है यह पुलिस रिफॉर्म बिल। अध्यक्ष महोदय, यह बात निंदाजनक है कि अंग्रेजों के जाने के बाद पहली बार सरकार पुलिस बिल में तब्दीली लाने के लिए कोई कदम उठा रही है, लेकिन इस बात में भी कोई शक नहीं कि यदि इस बिल को पारित किया गया तो जनता का जीवन दुर्भर हो जाएगा। इस बिल के अंतर्गत पुलिस बल के द्वारा इस्तेमाल किए जाने वाले हथियारों को लेकर कोई प्रावधान नहीं है। इसे सार्वजनिक जीवन में क्या प्रभाव पड़ सकता है उसका कोई अनुमान नहीं है इस अद्भुत सरकार को। पिछली बार कोच्चि के थाने से 25 AK-47 राइफलें लापता पाई गई और आज तक पता नहीं चला कि वे हथियार जमीन खा गए या आसमान निकल गया। अध्यक्ष महोदय हद देखिए, इस बिल में इस बात का प्रावधान भी है कि कदाचित आपको वीडियो प्रदर्शन करना है तो आपको केवल पुलिस बल से अनुमति लेनी पड़ेगी। अरे इस अनपढ़ सरकार को यही नहीं मालूम कि विरोध प्रदर्शन करना हमारा संवैधानिक हक है जिसे हमें वंचित नहीं किया जा सकता। इस अनपढ़ और विकलांग सरकार ने संविधान का संस्थापकों के विचारों को पीड़ा पहुंचाई है। हमने संसद में पहले ही सत्र में इस सरकार के बारे में भविष्यवाणी की थी कि यह सरकार आजादी के बाद ऐसी पहली सरकार होगी जो देश के उपेक्षाओं को खड़ी चोट पहुंचाएगी और बिल्कुल वैसा ही हो रहा है इस बिल का द्वारा। अंत में अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं बस इतना कहना चाहता हूँ कि इस बिल को निष्फल करके जनता को इस आपदाजनक स्थिति में न डालें। धन्यवाद।
Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, please.
Ma'am, it is indeed a learning experience for me to listen to the vibrant inputs of both the members of this House, both the supporters and the critics equally. The first issue that I would clarify is that of pay raise for police personnel, as pointed out by Mr. Christo Saju in his furious speech. Ma'am, the honorable opposition member is forgetting about the two subsequent pay commissions that stand implemented as of today. The police personnel, along with other government employees, have been provided a multi-folded raise of basic pay along with other immunities such as DA, TA and HRA, the Comptroller Auditor General's report for the year. Regarding the reservations as held by the opposition regarding the violation of constitutional rights by making the permission of police officer necessary prior to hold any seat in or protest is humbly submitted to opposition. Kindly ma'am, don't give us lectures regarding the violation or sanctity of constitution. It was your government that was snubbed by the Honorable Supreme Court for passing such acts which were ultra-virus to constitution. Our government believes that protest is a constitutional right and we respect the freedom to hold and organize such protests. But ma'am, protest at the cost of human life and public order, such things can't be tolerated or taken into consideration. There have been various instances when a peaceful protest turned into a riot and then the police was accused of being negligent towards their duty. This provision is precautionary measure to thwart any such events which will cause any ugly situation and cause huge losses to human and the governmental exchequer in terms of public property and other utilities. If the police is kept in loop with such protests which are peaceful and don't harm any interest, I don't find and feel any such move will cause any violation to our constitutional rights. In this address to her August gathering, Ms. Melvin Johnson also vehemently criticized many provisions of this bill on the pretext of non-incursion of judicial accountability in section 101 and 107. Is the respected opposition member forgetting the fact that the judiciary in our country is already overburdened with our 4 crore cases still pending? These provisions are included to provide some relief to common man for the pendency of courts. And if the worthy opposition thinks that by bringing up such an amendment to force which will frustrate the basic purpose of this provision, then they are grossly mistaken. Our government will never compromise on the standard of providing fast and efficient justice to common masses. The honorable opposition member also raised the contention regarding section 120, which expressly prohibits the filing of complaints after 6 months. This, I again believe, is a step to ensure judicial awakening among the masses. An event which has occurred 2 or 3 years ago should not bother the efficient functioning of police force. And if such a thing is allowed, then we should stop complaining about the overburdening of police department and subsequent delay in investigating and disposal of cases. I humbly request the House to consider the fact that since independence, a lot of things have changed in our administration and governmental processes. We have achieved the status of a developing nation and been said to be one in the coming decades. Our country is the only country among the developing nations across the world which was able to send an expedition to Mars, and yet we look down at the protectors of our society and intellect the images of a common man with a stick and shield made of bamboo wood. The same police act which controlled it in the colonial period is controlling it now. It is a humble request to everyone present in this house to strengthen the police force of our country by assigning his or her asset to this bill. I request the house to pass the bill.
The question is that the bill to consolidate and amend the law relating to the establishment, regulation, powers and duties of the police service and for matters connected therewith and incidental thereto be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor may please say aye. Aye. Those against the government may please say no. No. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Now, the question is that Section 101 and 107 stands part of the bill. There is one amendment in Section 101 and 107 by Ms. Mary Johnson. Are you moving it?
No, ma'am. In view of the reply given by the minister, I am not pressing my amendment.
Now, the question is that Section 101 and 107 stands part of the bill. Those who are in favor may please say aye. Aye. Those against the government may please say no. No. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Now, the question is that Chapter 1, the enactment formula and the title stands part of the bill. Those who are in favor may please say aye. Aye. Those against the government may please say no. No. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Honorable Minister of Law to introduce the bill.
Ma'am, I move the following resolution. This House recommends that the government should bring in the Prevention of Torture Act as a full-fledged legislation to prevent the inhuman treatment by torture detainees and prisoners. As we all know that India is signated to the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman and Degrading Treatment or Punishment as adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on 19th of December 1975 and India signed the same on 14th of October 1997. There are many reasons, events and unwanted casualties which have been held in the introduction of the bill. Some of which are torture is undermined country and violates the fundamental jurisprudence. Bengal State Prisoners Act of 1980 and Defense Indian Act of 1939 should not have been continued even at the dawn of independence, as such laws are ultra-virus to the Chapter 3rd of our Constitution. Such recourse is repugnant to the spirit and mandate of Article 21 and 22 of the Constitution of India. According to the National Crime Record Bureau, under the Ministry of Home Affairs, 1,060 prisoners died in 2003, 1,169 in 2004, 1,387 in 2005, and 1,424 prisoners died in 2006. According to the record of the same Bureau, reported deaths taken place between 2000 and 2010, on an average every year, 146 prisoners died in police custody and 136 prisoners died in judicial custody, which increases custodial killings each year. Although some provisions related to the matter exist in the IPC, yet they never even torture as clearly as in Article 1 of the Convention, nor does it make a criminal offence as called by Article 4 of the said Convention. In such circumstances, it is necessary for the ratification of the Convention so that domestic laws of our country are not in conformity with it. The matter has been examined by the consultation in the Law Commission of India and in the Attorney General of India. After considering deliberations on the issue, it is decided to bring in standalone legislation so that the social convention can be ratified. The important provisions of the bill are as follows. Number 1. Whoever being a public servant or being abetted by a public servant or with the consent or acquiescence of a public servant intentionally does any act for the purpose to obtain from him or a third person such information and convention which causes grievous hurt to any person, danger to life, life or health, whether mental or physical, of any person is said to inflict torture. Exception. Provided nothing contained in the section shall apply to any pain, hurt or danger aforementioned caused by any act which is inflicted in accordance with any procedure established by the law or justified by the law. Number 2. Where the public servant or any person affected by or with the consent or acquiescence of such public servant or any person for the purpose of extorting from him or from any other person interested in him any concession or any information which may lead to the detention of an offence or misconduct and on the ground of its religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, caste or community or any other ground whatsoever shall be punishable with imprisonment or either for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to Number 3. Notwithstanding anything contained in the purpose section of 1973, no portion of any import is therefore an offence under this bill unless the government is made within 6 months from the date on which the offence is committed. Thank you, ma'am and respected members.
Member of Government, please.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, I rise to support the resolution moved by my learned member through you. I would like to support her and congratulate her for forward this resolution. It is an undeniable fact that the prison system in our country has been associating with the committing of many atrocities across the nation. Among improper medical care, unhygienic food, lack of adequate spacing, and unavailability of basic amenities, torture figures on top such atrocities, the law and regulation governing the conduct of prison authorities is insufficient and does not include modern applications which are in consonance with international standard. It is in the spirit that I associate my support to the proposed resolution and wish that such act is brought forth without further delay. Thank you.
Honorable Leader of Opposition, please.
Honorable Speaker, ma'am, I would rise to oppose the bill on torture that the government has tabled in the House. Since this bill is vague and lacks clarity, the bill appears to be just a formality to abide the UN Convention and protect the cosmetic beauty of international relations which India has been maintaining with developed nations, when it should have been a serious attempt to curb the nuisance of torture which has been the order of the day in Indian jails. Our country, being the world's largest democracy, has enlightened and inspired nations towards the path of tolerance and unity in diversity, and as such, the very idea of torture is a setback to such fundamentals. The bill should have been constituted keeping such things in mind, but the non-serious and immature approach of the government will render the bill non-effective in practicality. Honorable Speaker, ma'am, let me point out the errors and weaknesses in the bill which need to be taken into account before it is actually implemented. In Section 3, words such information or a convention should be substituted with words unlawfully to give it a broader notion. In Section 5, the bill is a blow to the concept of national justice, a slap on the face of judiciary and disrespect to the judges. This section makes it compulsory for court to take an action only when a written complaint is made. Ma'am, the court should be given power to take some action if the judge has a reason to believe that a person under custody has been tortured, and under trial in police custody for fear may not reveal the torture to the judge, and the judge in that situation is not supposed to act till the complaint is made. This section is therefore ultra-virus to the Constitution. I will conclude by saying that this bill is unconstitutional, toothless, and is not going to serve the purpose as intended. The bill is passed in this form with curbs on the powers of the court. It will aid rather than prevent the heinous crimes of torture in India.
Honorable Home Minister, what is your opinion?
Ma'am, I extend my sincere thanks to Ms. Alisha Saji for bringing forth to the notice of the House this very serious issue of prevention of torture in Indian jails that has become a national shame for our country. The government has tried to make a difference time and again by amending the acts which control the administration of prison functions. Our government since past many years have been successfully running the scheme of self-employment in various prisons, and it makes me proud to announce the nationwide revenue of 36 crores have been generated through these schemes. It is also noteworthy that the International Committee of Red Cross in its annual report of jail visits has enlisted the Indian prisons as one of the most habitable and up-to-date prisons among developed nations. The government is in debt to Mrs. Alisha Saji for highlighting the issue. However, our government is already fueling a new bill and would definitely be including this point in that bill. I would therefore request the Honourable Member to withdraw the bill.
Ms. Alisha Saji, please.
Ma'am, I am grateful to the Honourable Ministers to be generous enough to support the bill, and in view of the reply given by the Ministers, I am withdrawing my bill.
Motion moved that the bill is withdrawn. Those who are in favour may please say aye. Aye. Those against the government may please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The bill stands withdrawn. The House is adjourned to meet at 11 a.m. tomorrow.